Hello, everybody, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Need to Nerd podcast. We're climbing up those charts, doing that thing we do, West.
That thing we do?
The thing we do.
You.
Today, West, welcome back, by the way. I feel like I didn't actually introduce you. I'm joined by Wes Singleton. He's my weekly co-host. And West, we want our podcast to be climbing the charts, right? You know? And
Yeah.
Just a little bit of housekeeping, give you the chance to rate and review us. That would really help in whatever podcast platform you're listening on.
If we hit number 1, we get a gold iPod Classic.
I'll make you a deal. If we hit number 1, I will buy you a gold iPod Classic.
They don't even make those anymore.
I'll find it.
I doubt they ever did.
I'll find one. I'll get it and I'll hydro dip it in gold. It'll be fine.
This is a movie. We're doing a movie review. We don't do a lot of those.
We are. Today we're going to be doing a review of the movie That Thing You Do. If you follow us on Twitter, you know that this movie is currently free on YouTube as the time of recording. And it's worth the watch.
Pause this. Go watch That Thing You Do.
Definitely.
And come right back. Because while we are immediately going to get into spoilers, because this is a television or a movie from the 90s.
Yeah.
But mostly, we know that watching this movie is better content than watching us, and we will say it every time.
Yeah, definitely. If you love this podcast and you trust our opinions on things, this is actually just a great film. Pause this, watch it, come back to the podcast when you get the chance. With that being said, though, West, before we dive into the movie itself, don't forget to check out the Discord. I don't know. It's been a little quiet the last couple weeks, mostly because I've been busy. But we will be doing a Magic the Gathering contest of some kind instead of a tournament, just because I'm moving this month, and then once we get settled in, my wife will be having a baby 2 months later, and my life's crazy right now. But I also know that the guys from the Common Knowledge podcast on the He's a Game Media Constructive Criticism Network are going to be hosting a historic Pauper event on Arena. And so, yeah, it'll be good. What?
Oh, I'm reading trivia and I'm laughing at some of these things.
Oh man, I'm excited to talk about this movie. I think that's it, right? If you want to support us directly, head on over to the Patreon, but I want to get into this. Nerd fact of the day, West. Nerd fact of the day.
Think about all the nerd facts of the day you don't hear because we're a weekly podcast.
Yeah, exactly. But today is the day that we're giving this nerd fact of the day. This is the only movie that this is really a nerd fact about Spencer. This is the only movie I think I've ever watched where one of the main characters does not have a name.
It's really funny that he doesn't have a name. It's so good. It's so good.
And every time I've talked about this movie with people will be like, "What's the bass player's name again?" And I'm like, "He doesn't have one."
Yeah.
Just factually doesn't have one in the film. And I love that about this film. And so if you're watching this, you're looking for a piece of trivia with people, just say, "Hey, by the way, that guy doesn't have a name." So there.
Actually, just one of the best gags.
It's pretty funny. It's really funny. We'll get to it when Guy is drunk and he's naming people off. It's one of my favorite parts.
Bass player.
He doesn't say it. He just says.
Yeah, it just says.
We'll get to it.
He's
drunk.
Get
to it. Yeah, we'll get to it. Okay. With that being said, not going to drop any production info this episode, but overall, I think that this movie is distributed by Universal. The cast is pretty great. Maybe we should pull that up before we get too far into it. Actually,
I'm on it for you.
Awesome. Give us the cast.
Well, we have Tom Everett Scott playing Guy Patterson. We have Liv Tyler playing Faye Dolan. Jonathan Shake, I'm sure I pronounced that wrong, as Jimmy. Steve Zahn as Lenny, who is easily just the coolest character. Such a good guy. We have Ethan Embry as the bass player. Tom Hanks as Mr. White. Smattering of other fantastic people, such as Bill Cobbs as Del Paxton. Rita Wilson as Marguerite.
Charlize Theron as Tina.
Mm-hmm.
The cast is great. Some A players, in Tom Hanks, Liv Tyler, and then some really good acting from people like Tom Everett Scott. Like just really good.
That was his film debut.
Is it really?
And according to the trivia here on IMDb, Tom Hanks did not want him because he looked too much like Tom Hanks. And Rita Wilson's like, no, he's cute. Take him.
That's really funny.
Yeah, which is funny because then the role that Rita Wilson plays in this is entirely just to hit on Guy Patterson. It's funny as all hell.
That's really great. Let's dive in though. Actually, before we do that, who wants to hype it this week? Should I? I mean, I feel like we were hyping it just by like we're so me.
Do that thing you do, and we can't sing anymore because of copyright laws.
Yeah. So here is the thing about that thing you do. All throughout our lives, we know of one-hit wonders. Whether it's girls that like to wear Abercrombie and Fitch, Blue by Eiffel 95, or is that the name? Eiffel 99, whatever the name is. Aqua with Barbie Girl. Like, there is a smattering of one-hit wonders in our lives. But what is the journey of a one-hit wonder like, West? What is that experience?
It's hard to say. I've never worked in my father's electronics shop.
And this is a story of that experience. And the meteoric rise of a one-hit wonder. And if that doesn't excite you, I mean, we just don't like the same things, man. Like, but this film is a ton of fun. It will make you laugh. It will make you question the type of boyfriend you are. It will, make you want to be a better boyfriend or friend, and just be nicer to people, care about things, question whether your dad actually loves you, stuff like that. A lot of this is just me.
Or if he knows the lyrics to the song that you play on television.
Yeah, that's great. But no, this is like the perfect chill movie night popcorn flick. Like, if you just want to have fun, and you don't want it to get super intense, not a bunch of action or stuff like that, and just want to sit down, watch a movie with your family, this is a great one to do it. Like, just legitimately great.
It's your family will want to start a band after it. This is one of those weirdly try this at home movies. Results may vary.
So I cannot tell you first time thoughts before we get into spoilers because, Wes, I have probably seen this movie over 500 times.
And you asked for... No, never mind.
What?
I was going to say, and then you asked for my first time thoughts on Pokemon Heart Gold, Soul Silver? No.
Hey, man. I that's fair. That's fair. I think that I remember loving this film the first time I watched it. I was very, very young watching this film for the first time. And we might have watched it for movie night, I'm not sure. But it is like a Howland family classic. Mm-hmm. Like, we all have seen this movie so many times.
Were your parents born in the 60s?
My parents were not born... Maybe they were born in the 60s. Like, the late 60s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's funny that this is a period piece.
It really is. It really is a period piece.
Fascinating because the 60s is not something that we've seen period pieces of nearly as much as like the 50s, 70s, and 80s. Like we see those a lot. But like the 60s, like, and granted, this is a 60s period piece that like engages with none of the issues.
Yeah,
of the 60s.
That's factual.
Zero of the issues of the 60s, but it totally like encapsulates like that small town America 60s vibe.
Yeah.
And is pretty fun for that.
So I can't really remember my first time watching it, my first thoughts outside of that, other than just pure joy as a child. Like, I had this soundtrack, and I would listen. This is like just a soundtrack that I listened to all the time.
That's excellent.
What about you? You literally watched this film for the first time last week and then watched it again.
Yeah. Some first thoughts I have are Liv Tyler pretty. Not that I hadn't had those thoughts before watching this, because she's everyone's favorite elf lady.
Her smile specifically,
it's so good.
She doesn't smile a ton in Lord of the Rings or in Hulk, but in this she smiles quite a bit, and she has a really pretty smile.
She also just has so much more screen time in this film than in those films.
I think she has a lot of screen time in the Hulk, right?
It's been a long time since I watched
the Incredible Hulk specifically, I think is the name of the film.
But certainly more than Lord of the Rings. But either way, this is one of her early works. But beyond Liv Tyler, some first impressions I have of this film is it's a very musical film. Like, one of the things that makes this fun is that there's always music playing, and the main song you hear so many times throughout the film that you know it by the end, which is actually a good time, because a one-hit wonder usually is good because it doesn't take very many listens to know it by heart.
Yeah. Has it been stuck in your head out of curiosity?
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure.
Oh, I love it.
Absolutely. Although that's not nearly as stuck in my head as the title, Captain Geach and the Shrimp Shack Shooters, which Lenny just shoots that one from the hip.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't think that one through. He's just like straight up, like, that's the name, which is funny because in that he's acknowledging that Guy Patterson is the captain. Because that's the nickname he calls Guy Patterson the entire film, Geach.
Right.
So, like, yeah, Lenny is really funny. Obviously, Jimmy is just, like, your classic, like, moody, my soul is in my music guy. Some things that are interesting is that, like, for it being a band on tour movie, none of the cheating on each other is out in the open, is talked about, because this is set in the 60s and made for a family audience.
Yeah.
Even though, like, clearly there's a lot of it happening, it just never gets talked about.
Yeah. I mean, I think that they hint at it with the dentist and...
Well, yeah, that one they definitely hint at. I'm more thinking, like...
Oh, yeah,
it would
that's
be
spoilers.
Impossible to believe that Jimmy doesn't get with Diane, what's her face?
Diane Dane.
Yeah.
Diane Dane.
Also, the first time through, I straight up thought that the bass player was married because of that offhand comment Lenny made to the girl trying to set her off of his case.
He's married.
I know, like, and straight up, like, the whole time as he's, like, dancing with and, like, kissing other women on tour, I'm like, what the what's going on here? And of course, second watch through, I was like, yes.
You started to understand Lenny a little bit better, yeah.
Like, not a single thing he says is serious the whole time.
Well, let's dive in. I think we're already getting close to spoiler territory, so I'm fine going into our regular segments. And let's go to overall impressions. And I'll go first on this, West, because when I turned on this film to watch it for this podcast, a rush of nostalgia. When that opening song comes on, I just left my body. I did not even realize I could feel that level of nostalgia.
Loving you
lots and lots. I'm loving you lots and lots. It was just pure bliss. And I really needed it for what it's worth. Like, it made me feel really good. I cried, like, when it was over, like, the movie. And I might cry now. I have had a rough go of it. I mean, we all have in 2020, but getting let go from my job, having a wife that I'll just share with the audience. My wife passed out in a Sam's Club this weekend. And it's been
I can't believe this isn't the lead into a stand-up comedy joke.
No, it's just been a really rough 12 plus months for me. And this movie brought me so much joy. Like, I can't even express. I when I turn it off, I immediately, um, you know, fun fact, I actually looked for the record, like the actual record. That was. I'm gonna make so many of these references. I'm really sorry.
It's great. I'm
And
glad I watched it the second time because I'm getting so many more.
and they're sold out everywhere that I looked. But I'm gonna get the A side, B side, record. And yeah, I just this movie is really takes me to my happy place. What about you?
Some overall impressions I think I have is that like I think that they managed to like encapsulate the rut that Guy Patterson is in, like the nature of his life and how like sure he's living it. Every day happens, but clear like it doesn't even address that he's not happy. It just like is so clear that one couldn't be happy in that situation, or that one shouldn't be happy, according to writer and director Tom Hanks. Who we should all listen to on this because he's knowledgeable, you know. That like that came through clear as daylight. Clearly, his dad runs the family. The women are not allowed to like say or think anything. Guy Patterson's barely allowed to be his own guy.
And you see that like right in the opening scene, right? Whether it's, the dad flipping through stuff, telling, the women to, what he believes and expecting them to agree, all the way to Guy, running the numbers at night. And like,
I was going to say, the sister asking, does that mean I get paid now?
Yeah, it's so bad. But like you said, it's a period piece, right? Like it's the 60s. So
yeah,
they make light of the fact, but like, it sucks.
So like I think that is one thing that like pictures got like is good to keep in mind for like Guy is that like more is like him and Lenny are awesome because they're both like we're just along for this ride. We do not care where it takes us. We're like we know we have a one-hit wonder and we know it's good, but we're going to play that and we're going to shut our mouths and we're going to enjoy the cool people we get to interact with, the places we get to go. And like there's that awesome contrast between Guy and Jimmy the whole time because of that, right? Where he's like, not enough. I need more. I need to record. I need to do this. I need to do that. No patience. Like I think that that's one of the things that stuck out overall. Another one is just like that. The nature of like that musician record company interaction, right? Like it's played out a whole bunch of times. Yeah, in real life, but also we've seen it in dozens of movies over the course of time where people get and to be honest, like Playtone doesn't really screw over the Wonders.
Right.
Like they don't even have the opportunity to get that far to deny them their rights and everything. Like really it's just that they kind of renege on their part of the deal, which is funny because you don't see it that often. Other things that really like jump out at me is just like it's clear the whole time what is wrong about Faye and Jimmy's relationship.
That she's goo gaga for him and he's like
just not like doesn't even notice when she's there or not.
Yeah.
Also I think that like just the teen sensationalism like that gets talked about from the late 50s early 60s really like was satirized in this film to a big degree, but I don't think it like made it worse. Like I think it was clear that like that was the people that they were playing for and it was fun.
Yeah, let's talk about favorite characters. Mine is Lenny. It's Guy is a close second, but you know who else is good though? I actually think I put this in our notes. What is the guy's name?
Lamar.
Oh my gosh, Lamar is up there too.
Yeah.
But it's Lenny for me. I think Lenny may have had a huge part in my like what my sense of humor is. I've seen this movie so many times, and I still laugh at all of Lenny's lines. Like,
yeah.
I don't know if it's my wife just can never tell when I'm serious, and I think a lot of my friends can never tell that I'm joking. And when I get going, and I think Lenny is actually a huge part of that. Like his comedy probably inspired what I find funny. And yeah, he never doesn't have something to say, but says, just that. I mean, just the moment he's got a moment where he's being interviewed and he's like, "I'm not with these fellas. I got a blue ribbon pig."
Both of his interviews are excellent.
It's just so funny. Like he's sitting there getting interviewed on television and radio for this like, for this tour that they're doing, and he says, "I'm not with these fellas. I got a pig in the state fair, and I'm trying to win that blue ribbon." It's so funny. Yeah. Like he couldn't care less.
I love when they're talking about everyone's like musical
Captain Geach
inspiration, and he just like straight up is like Captain Geach and the Shrimp Shack Shooters, and then Tom Hanks just gives him the best look, just like, I cannot believe that you're part of this group. Tom Hanks playing Mr. White in this is such a like. It's all about how he like looks at the camera and nothing about what he actually says or does. Right? Like I think he's just like silent for most of his on-screen time and yet still feels like a full character.
His character is he your favorite character or is Lenny your favorite character?
I was actually going to say I think that like after Lenny Guy, there's like a huge fall off just in like how big roles seem and when they get moments to shine.
This is actually could be better of mine. We'll get into, but
all right, I can see it. It's such a focused work that it really goes through, and like, of course, I think Faye has such this like sharp moment of clarity that she could have had sooner, should have had sooner.
But she says that
totally. But, like, I think that between that one monologue she gives when she breaks up with Jimmy...
Oh, so good.
And her conversations with Guy in the end of the show are just fantastic conversations. So she's easily a character that I feel like, was done dirty in terms of how full she felt. Because that depth was there. We just needed to explore it farther. Although I like her throwing darts in their first scene where they're like playing it together. She's just like someone who's just there. It makes me think of Scott Pilgrim versus the World. And just like band tagalongs. But I think my favorite is just Guy.
Sure.
And I think for like a number of reasons. I think one being that I identify a lot with Guy in that like I too am a person who like is out here in the middle of my 20s with no idea what I'm doing on this rock. And like that's kind of where we find him in this. And like clearly there's a depth to him that we don't talk about, right? Like I think it's fascinating how taken for granted it is that any of these people would have done military service, right? Guy talks about being deployed in Germany for a very short amount of time.
Yeah.
When talking to Del Paxton, which makes sense. Like he would have, like if he was a soldier during those years, deployed in West Germany is exactly where a U.S. soldier would have been. But like it totally gets glossed over. I think it's pretty cool that like he has like this, like right for him almost like he broke into a market that like he wasn't going to, but like was the person who deserved it more than anyone else, even though he just showed up.
Well, I think one of the key things here is like, and I think it is the theme of this movie, right? Like imagine if Guy just does what Jimmy wants.
Yeah.
Like they don't even win the talent show.
Yeah.
They don't even get noticed, right? And I think that and Lenny knows that. The bass player doesn't care, right? He's
doesn't even have a name.
Yeah, and Jimmy like the first scene in the restaurant they're singing one of Jimmy's ballads. Like the literal, it's a great song. Like the whole. By the way, if you haven't listened to the soundtrack, if you're you know, listen to it after this podcast because it slaps.
Yeah.
But I agree. I think that Guy is both insanely humble and, you know, I mean, come I
listened to him say "I am Spartacus" like 5 times too many in that movie.
So there is a difference between fake humility is not humility.
Fair.
Like when he says things like that, he's usually saying it sarcastically.
It's true.
Like when Lenny says, "How did we get here?" and he puts on his shades. "I led you here, my good friend, for I am Spartacus." Like that's a joke.
Absolutely.
But let's move on from favorite characters. Let's talk about favorite storylines. For me, I think my absolute favorite storyline in this film specifically is the I don't want to say the growth of the ride, but like the rapid progression. Like
that escalated quickly.
Yeah, like they go from talent show to restaurant to
state fairs
to state fairs to national television with 2 different managers, and at one point in the film, you know, Guy's sitting there and he with Dale Paxton and he's like, "Yeah, we've been together for 6 months."
2 months.
Is it 2 months? Did he say 2 months?
And then Del Paxton's like, for some fans,
that's right.
That's 2 months too long.
That's right. And it's 2 months. It's 2 months.
Yeah.
And the rapidness of the ride is really, really fun for me.
Yeah.
And I think that it also goes to show a lot in like in the movie, like how rapid it is, how unprepared anyone is for this ride that they're about to go on.
Yeah.
What about you? What's your favorite storyline?
Oh man, I mean maybe it's just like the sharp decline of the band. I think just gets me every time.
The plummeting.
Yeah. Like, I think that, like, I've seen enough like other like band movies to know that like totally one person gets up and leaves, and this new guy nobody knows comes in, and they don't know whether they can trust him, and he usually works, you know, is a dog for the label, right? Like, whatever his name is,
Wolf.
Yeah, exactly. Who like is, you know, also somehow has more of a name than the bass player we've had thus far, and I'm certain that this is all just a big like joking at bass players, because like it's noticeable when they're absent, but you'll never hear them when they're good. And like I think that's like a thing that like that's the crack, right? Is like our bass player just disappeared, but like then like Lenny takes off, Jimmy falls through. I love Mr. White's like I'll call you next week. We can go do something together. To Wolf on the way out. I think that's really funny. But I think that like the storyline here is like that. I think is fascinating. Is that Guy started with all of the pieces. Like everything that Guy has at the end of the film, he had at the beginning. Wow. He just needed to know that he had it. In a lot of ways.
He had Faye as a friend.
Totally. I'm referring to like he was ready to strike out into adulthood, leave the comfort of his family. He had everything he needed to succeed, to become that music teacher in Washington he was always going to become. But like he needed that like 2-month wild ride kick in the pants to get there.
Well, and I think that, you know, laying down a track with this hero and, you know, stuff like that, that's all part of the journey.
Totally. No. And like that's what gets him there. But like I think that these are experiences that happened to him. I don't think they fundamentally changed the guy. I
don't know. I think that you think that he is more cocky than he is. I think that realizing that he was capable is
that is
is
totally
definitely one. I don't think that he would have talked to Faye. Like I think that like he was like talk to her like that is what I mean. I think
sure.
I don't know. Like or the way he talked to Jimmy at the end, right, where he's like, "Why didn't you break up with her in Pittsburgh?"
Yeah.
And just like stuff like that. I don't know that guy. I think he's too just okay. I don't know what word to use.
No,
here.
I know exactly what you mean. Like he's like everything is so like as long as things are above a certain threshold, he's not going to make the big change himself.
Yeah.
He's going to like stay in any bad situation until it ends as opposed to just change it for himself.
Yep.
And I think that's true. I think doesn't know his way out of that until the end. But that arc for him, I think, is a fun one because it really is just like this uncoiling of a knot.
Yeah.
Right? He has all of the rope he ever had at the end, but I think it's a much more useful rope.
Sure. Let's move on to Could Be Betters. I have just one for this film, and I probably didn't have this Could Be Better until I started doing this podcast, by the way. Like, I feel like...
Because it's the same Could Be Better we have for the vast majority of works?
Yeah, I mean, maybe. My main complaint is actually Jimmy.
Oh.
I just think that... I don't know. Jimmy doesn't get... I don't think it is clear on the first watch through that Jimmy's a bad dude.
Yeah.
And I think that they either need to give Jimmy more time or let the audience see clearly that Jimmy's a bad dude. And it could be because Faye's so in love with him that her love for him gives you this perception of him that's not real as an audience member. But I think that either Jimmy needs more screen time or Jimmy needs to be... You need to show what is wrong with Jimmy.
Yeah.
Because I remember as a kid never understanding why Jimmy got so mad at the end. Like why Faye got so mad. Like it's just a normal fight. Like why is she breaking up with him? But it's as you watch it as an adult, you watch it, you're like,
nothing
okay,
could be worse for me being engaged to Liv Tyler.
Yeah, it's the furthest thing from the world. Anyway, I think that they could have done more to show.
Yeah.
That Jimmy's a little... I mean, it comes across these pretentious.
How much of that is that, like, our ability to distinguish toxic masculinity is just so much better in 2021 than it is in 1996?
Sure.
But, like, Tom Hanks wrote exactly what he needed to know in terms of that there, and, like, didn't say any further. Like, maybe Tom Hanks is such a good judge of character that he could figure it out from this character after nothing, and he just assumed the rest of us were that smart.
Maybe. I'm not sure. I'm just saying that, I think that Jimmy's not fleshed out as a character very well.
Yeah.
And
I would like to see more into his struggles and entitlements and, like
he's quitting this band, and it's like, it's cool that he, like, has this belief in his art. But, like, I don't know.
I would have liked to have seen, like, a solo for Jimmy. Like what if he got, the going to write his sad song in his room, right? What if we actually, like, saw what that sad song was?
Nice post-credit scene. That'd be...
Or just, like, I do want to hear more of the Herdsmen, right? Like, what are those guys like?
Yeah.
But yeah, it'd be really funny if Wolf ended up in the Herdsman.
Probably does. That's my only Could Be Better. What about you?
I think that's a good one. I think that's a really good one. I think that I don't know. I haven't sat with it all that much. Like, I think that it's hard for. I'm learning that places where, like, my heart hurts watching a character in the situation doesn't mean it should be different in the film, right? Like,
absolutely.
Watching Faye go through everything she goes through, like, I'm actually really glad, right? Like, Tom Hanks didn't write Jimmy that much worse in terms of, like, how he treats her.
It's funny because I actually had a similar thought while watching the film when what's her name is getting Guy drunk to sleep with him,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is so inappropriate.
Yeah.
But then I was like, you know what? This is good writing. Like, while I am uncomfortable with this situation,
Yeah.
it's actually
Also, the part where Tom Hanks is writing his wife to play the role changes it all.
there.
Specifically knowing that the actor was chosen because Rita Wilson thought he was cute makes it like really
It's so funny.
like,
It's like
hyper-specific.
he looks too much like me. Yeah, but he's cute. Keep him.
Yeah.
It's like
This is a
no,
compliment,
you're married
Tom.
to me.
Yeah. But like she serves like this interesting role, right? And I think that her like observations of Guy are fantastic, right? The like, I just lost you, right? Like that ability to sense at that moment, like
He didn't have the fortitude anymore, man. He didn't have the. He didn't
Well,
have the.
obviously he didn't have that part, but she planned for that one to begin with. Like she's in charge of that consumption. Like she can really control that part.
Yeah.
And sometimes sloppy makeouts is all you want anyway, Spencer.
Sure.
Although I have to say that like there were like moments in this film where like they're talking about like the ways in which people like find love that I think are really fascinating, right? The question of when was the last time you were properly kissed? And her answer is like New Year's 3 years ago. And the guy is also like so like, I don't know, true to that like screwing around in your 20s experience.
Right.
Where like it's just like, yeah, that, you know, there was like, and you know, it was like woof, that means that, you know, she's going back and retconning. She would have given a different answer to that like, you know, 6 months ago.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a great question. Like, just it's a good one to have in your back pocket.
You use that next time you're on a Tinder date.
It will never be useful. It's a good one to have to know how to compare everything else to it.
Let's move on to Lovitz. I'll rapid fire mine really quick. West, we've got the I can't remember the old drummer's name. What is his
Bill
name?
Paxton?
No. The original drummer.
Oh, Guy Patterson?
No, the guy that broke his arm.
Oh, Chad.
Chad breaking his arm and then taking Guy's job at the record store. Hysterical to me. I loved that so much.
Who's Chad?
Who's Chad? Yeah, that's a good one. Lenny's full of one-liners. Just Lenny's one-liners overall.
Yeah.
That's the on netters is like one of my actual favorite lines in the entire film. Just Lenny is full of them. Where was I? Oh, playing songs on my guitar. Like they all were, man.
Yeah.
Then I really love Lamar. I love his smile. I love that moment where he's like, "Take this kid to the blue spot." Like his character is so fun. This is my hotel, like the whole thing. I love it so much. I love him as a character. I love how caring he is. Yeah. I think those are my big Lovitz. Guy getting to record with Del Paxton. Guy meeting Del Paxton was a huge Lovett for me. Just like, you are my biggest fan. It's like,
Well, thanks.
that's
Also, that's such a good moment. Just like you're like put in this situation like you'd always dreamed of being in, and you're stupid drunk for it.
Yeah,
is a classic.
I am looking at my notes, and I want to go back really quick before I hand you the mic for the Lovitz. I do think that Jimmy not going back to get Faye when they're getting in the cop car is a key moment that I didn't realize as a kid.
Yeah, that's the moment.
Yeah.
Like that's absolutely pivotal.
Yeah.
And every moment thereafter, when it is time for someone to acknowledge Faye's existence,
is Guy.
Jimmy fails.
Yeah. Absolutely. And then my last Lovett is that final kiss scene. It's a good kiss. It's a good kiss.
Yeah.
What about you? What are your Lovitts?
Thanks for leaving me some excellent ones, because the talent show is so funny to me as a person who sat through many talent shows in my lifetime. All of them, of course, with a much younger source of talent, but like there's elements to it that still hold true. The back and forth between some guy in the crowd and the announcer is really funny. Like, I like that one.
Dude, that is one of my favorite parts of the movie too.
It's on the radio scene where they're all like,
oh dude, when he dances
with
the
leaving me that one.
When he dances with that sign is just
I honestly Darlene Patterson, her actor is Dawn Maxey. She conveys emotion in like that 20 seconds on screen there that like has serious depths to it, of like, I am so jealous. I will never do anything in my life. Who is this guy and why is he so excited? And I should have kissed him. All of that is clearly written on her face in that like one bit there, and it's so good.
Yeah.
Some other things that I just love about that scene is like how like the dad just doesn't get it until like it's way after Time to Be Gotten. Is so good. He's like, hey, stop! It's like refuses to acknowledge why. Right? Is just what he would normally have anyone do. But like that scene is just really fun. I think that the beach scene, like they're in the movie, like that is like such a just good jab at like Hollywood of the 60s. Such a good jab at like what it's like to be B-list in Hollywood, right? Like you super don't actually matter. I think that it produces one of the funnier jokes of the whole thing, the Captain Geach and the Shrimp Shack Shooters.
Right.
Like, I think that phrase is just fantastic, and it's a name I'm going to be putting in things for all time. And yeah, I think that just like that chat in the coffee shop between Faye and Guy, I think is actually just so fantastic. Like, I think that what happens afterwards is really fun, but like that conversation is really meaningful, and like the fact that I like want to deck Guy so hard at the end of it speaks to the power of that conversation.
Yeah.
Knowing, of course, that he bucks it up eventually without like needing a lot more time or effort put into him is helpful. But like the first time I was like, what on earth is happening here? Like, really? This is the moment. Otherwise, this is a runway scene.
Yeah. I have two more love it's when you're done, by the way.
What, you think you love this movie, Spencer?
Well, you just I just thought of them as you were talking.
Yeah.
But the thing is I love the entire movie, so like I tried to tone it down, but now I have to get some off my chest. I don't know. I really love the fact that they like signed their record deal in a camper while eating stew. That is, or their not their record deal, but their manager contract. I really love that they recorded their first record in a church.
Yeah.
And like that cut scene, by the way, where it goes over the stained glass, is actually just one of my favorite, and it starts on the scream. Just really good directing and writing. I thought that was really great. But yeah, those are two more. Who's Uncle Bob?
Yeah. I love it when they're the first time they're on that radio, like the first radio interview they do, where like it's just like, say hi guys.
Hi.
All right, now we're gonna play their song.
Yeah, it's really funny.
Giving the mic to people and then taking it away right as they try to say anything meaningful is a funny gag.
Yeah.
If you ask me.
Should we rate it?
Whew. Number 7 on the.
So we're going. If it gets number 1, does it get a gold iPod Classic? So scale of 0 to 5 is how we usually do this. And I'll go first. I would give this a 5 out of 7. and I have a pretty good reason. By the way, for those who are long-time listeners or not long-time listeners, that is a perfect score on this podcast. You can get a 5, but if you get a 5 out of 7, it's a perfect score. Don't ask me how it works. I don't make the rules.
If you really can't figure out how or why, someone ask about it enough times on the internet, someone will point you in the right direction.
Yeah, there you go. But West, the reason that I give this a 5 out of 7 is actually pacing. This movie, we can cover my could be better, right? But could be betters are not. They're not literally, I would change this thing, it ruined the movie for me. They're just, I wish this happened. I think this could have been a little bit better.
If the movie was ruined for us, we wouldn't be reviewing it.
But the pacing of this film is so good. I laugh, I smile. I mean, I cried this time. I think that this film is perfect. And I mean, the budget for this could not have been very high.
I think the budget this is Tom Hanks' debut as a writer and director.
That's amazing because he crushed it.
Which I think doesn't hurt it. Or probably does hurt it on budget. But probably does a lot of good things for it in terms of the fact that it got Tom Hanks for practically free.
The budget for this film was
26
million. Yeah.
Hey, it box officed for 34.6. It's a success.
Yeah, this film is. I don't even know that. I don't know anybody else who loves it as much as I do. This is not one that comes up in regular conversation for me.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's a cult classic, but it can be for this podcast if people want it to be because it is that good. But yeah, I would give this a perfect score. This is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Hell yeah.
What about you?
Oh man, I think that because I don't have a childhood of growing with this, I don't know if I can give it the perfect score the same way you did, right? I think that would be hasty on my part. Not that I'm saying it doesn't deserve it, but more saying I don't deserve to give it the perfect score. So I think I'm just gonna have to give it I think for me, it's sitting at a 4.5 with a lot of room to grow. But I think that most of that is just going to be the percentage of Lenny's lines that I can quote on the spot. As that grows, the rating of this will grow for me.
It's true. Are you going to watch this with your family?
I'm going to watch this, I don't know, with some regularity. It's a good film.
It's so good.
I want to watch it more than just about any, I don't like watching movies, I think is a big part of it. Overall, I want to consume new things, and I feel a big part of why people love movies is they like to rewatch movies because they're condensed. They can be done.
Yeah. It's so funny to me that this movie is 2.5 hours too. It does not feel it.
No, not at all.
It feels short.
Yeah.
You get done with this film, you're that was 2.5 hours. It tells a lot of story, a lot of story.
Yeah.
4.5 is a good score. This is one of our higher. Have we even reviewed a movie before? Oh, the Digimon movie. We reviewed the Digimon movie.
Yeah, we did.
I think we gave this a higher score than the Digimon movie.
It has a very comparable soundtrack.
Oh, the soundtrack. So, fun fact: Playtone Records is a real company in America now. They made it, and I think the soundtrack is on Playtone Records.
Yeah.
That's in
the soundtrack, all of the bands are attributed to the names of the bands who sung them in the
film.
Yeah.
And I think they're all a part of Playtone Records.
So I think it's hilarious.
Yeah. And Playtone Records is in fact owned by Tom Hanks.
It says here 1996 Sony BMG Music Entertainment, actually.
Oh man.
But
is it in partnership with Playtone?
Spotify's not going to give me that info.
All right. Well, watch the movie. We liked the movie. Like and subscribe to this podcast wherever you're listening. Give us a review. It really does help. Next week, we will be joined by Tom from None other than my favorite podcast. What? Why are you looking at me like that?
Don't worry about it.
Nerd on. What is happening?
I'm like, it's exciting.
It is exciting, and we'll be talking about our Need to Nerd Dragon Ball Edition. And I'm really excited. I'll probably be writing the show notes like tomorrow, so send them to Tom. But I hope to talk about the Breath of Dragon Ball, video games, and whatever we consumed for this.
I'm just going to spend the next week with my arms above my head, gathering the energy of the Earth.
Of the Earth to do this episode? Is that hard?
I don't know. I feel like I need that much.
Yeah. So thank you everybody so much for listening. We'll see you guys on next week with Tom. And goodbye, Wes.
Bye, Spencer. Captain Gooch and the Shrimp Shack Shooters.
Yeah, I knew.